We have the holy hand grenade.
Yes, of course!
Hey guys, how's it going? This is Holy Hand Grenade and this is part 2 of my Battlefield 3 jet tutorial. If you have yet to see part 1 of this tutorial, you can click the annotation on the screen or check the description for the link. Before diving into the tutorial, I would like to thank Zinto, Dice, Battlefield, and the hundreds of other people who shared part 1 of this tutorial. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to each and every one of you for helping support my channel. Regardless of platform, playstyle, or skill level, I truly thank you all. In today's video, I will be covering dogfighting, air-to-ground attacks, and achieving your first kills in a jet. Unlike part 1, the remainder of this tutorial can be incorporated by any Battlefield 3 pilot, regardless of platform. In addition, I apologize for the delay in part 2. Schoolwork and other obligations put a major delay in this video's production. Although the mighty aeronautical machines playable in Battlefield 3 can be challenging for some to control, the true challenge comes when you are faced with a combat situation. While first starting off with a jet, you are merely equipped with a basic cannon, which for a large amount of people presents a major roadblock in air domination. It may not be the easiest thing to master, but after some practice, you will find that the front-mounted cannon, which is often referred to as the weakest weapon for the jet, is a super effective tool of destruction. A common issue that pilots encounter is the lack of accuracy when using the machine gun. There are two ways to get around the generally poor targeting that the gun offers. The first and easiest way to counteract its aim is to try and get as close to your target as possible. If your target is a jet, I recommend falling in on your enemy's tail and hitting the afterburners to try and close the gap to under 100 feet. This short amount of space will in fact make it harder for you to tail the enemy jet, but it will make it so your machine gun's accuracy increases exponentially. This method requires a more advanced understanding of controlling jets while engaged in a dogfight. I encourage those pilots with advanced flight knowledge to use this method. For those just getting used to life in the sky, I recommend the lead method of aerial engagement. In the lead method, pilots approach dogfights from a much greater distance. Although virtually the same as the previous tactic, the increased distance is more forgiving to those pilots not fully accustomed to tailing an enemy jet. To successfully hit your target using this method, you must lead the enemy jet with your targeting reticle. As a rule of thumb, the enemy jet should be on the outside of the circle that surrounds your reticle. Once you've found the proper lead, remember not to just unload your entire clip with one motion. Shooting for a few seconds at a time will lead you to a more accurate and effective shot with the front-mounted cannon. Only when the enemy is directly in front of you or you've found the precise lead should you begin to spray your entire cannon. Although this may sound hard to some of you, after a few minutes of prowling the skies, your aim and ability to use the front-mounted cannon will drastically increase. The next weapon in the jet's arsenal are the missile pods. Although missile pods aren't ideal for aerial combat, they can still cause a huge amount of destruction to those knowledgeable of its range and accuracy. While using missile pods for aerial combat, I suggest leading your target by a significant amount. If your target is a helicopter, I suggest leading it by half the amount of that of a jet. As a side note, the missiles tend to launch lower than what the reticle actually shows. You should compensate by aiming higher in your target. For ground enemies, make sure to spot your initial target, get enough distance on them, and come down on them at a 45-degree angle. I suggest unloading all 14 missiles while on each of your runs. Try to adjust your aim and compensate for your decreasing altitude. And remember, pull up before gravity gets the best of you. The next weapon in the jet's arsenal is one of its most lethal options: heat seekers. Just like the machine gun, while using heat seekers, you want to tail your enemy as best as possible. The faster you can mirror your enemy, the better. It takes 4 to 6 seconds for the missiles to lock on. Because of this time, it is crucial that you don't waste your shot. The common mistake with most pilots is to shoot both missiles once they are locked on. Although effective for those jets without flares, this will only elongate the dogfight when in an encounter with an enemy jet equipped with IR flares. The best way around flares when using heat seekers is to shoot one missile and bait your enemy to use their flares. Once you see the flares popped, lock on again as fast as possible and shoot your remaining missile. The reload time on flares is slower than that of the lock-on time of your heat seeker. Incorporating this method will net you many more kills in a shorter amount of time. You can also bait the enemy's flares by simply locking on and never firing a missile. Most inexperienced pilots tend to set their flares off the second they hear the lock light go off. For those kills where you have nothing more than a machine gun, I recommend making your flight plan as aggressive and fast as possible. Without flares, your airtime is limited unless you are a truly experienced pilot. Sometimes it can be helpful to wait on the runway and see if an enemy flies by. If they do, you have an open opportunity to start off behind them in an engagement. Going for quick and precise kills is your main option. Helicopters are also an excellent target when just starting off due to their openness in the sky. If you find you are being shot down before you have a chance to engage an enemy, I strongly recommend practicing low altitude flying and weaving in and out of buildings. These maneuvers make it significantly harder for your enemies to lock on and engage you. Just remember, relax, observe, and act quickly. Always be aware of what you are going to do and how that action will affect the aerial battlefield. This concludes part 2 of my Battlefield 3 jet tutorial. If you have any questions or areas of clarification, please don't hesitate to leave a comment on this video. I'll be sure to answer as many of them as possible in part 3 of the tutorial. Also, adding this video to your favorites makes it easier for you to come back and rewatch these tips. Until next time, I'm Holy Hand Grenade, and see ya.